Hello and welcome into this week's episode of the Everyday Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Hagele. Today's episode is episode 1 of a programming mini-series where we're going to break down the nuts and bolts, the nitty-gritty of programming. How to design a program that's effective, that drives lasting results, and that also fits within your everyday life. Things that you, as an everyday athlete, can incorporate into your daily training to develop a really robust strength and conditioning system. So first, today's episode, I want to talk about what programming actually is. Whenever I refer to programming on an episode, in a newsletter, what are we talking about at the root level? And a lot of people, whenever they think through, and I hate to overgeneralize, but when we talk about programming and exercising, there is a distinct difference between exercising and training. A lot of people will think of programming as picking exercises, picking their sets and reps, but that's not all that program development is. That is choosing things at random. And programming is an art as well as the science of applying physiological stress in a way that challenges the body and ultimately changes the body. And that change is manifested in results. So if you've ever wondered why you train or you work out hard, you go to the gym, you sweat, you feel the burn, but you're not really changing. Why is that? It's because you're working and you're not following structured programming. So today I'm going to break down what programming actually is, why it matters, and how you can tell if your program is a good program or not. So ultimately, the goal of this miniseries is to teach the everyday athletes how real programming works so that they can then go out and, whether it's design a program for themselves or know how to justify, know how to audit a program to see if it's something that's actually worth their time and their money. So for today's episode, programming is not about those exercises, but it's about applying stress in the right amounts at the right time and with a method that is designed to create a specific adaptation. So let's start off with workouts versus training plans versus the actual program. And we'll kind of break down what each of these are, because there's 3 distinct different elements here. This is the foundation. If you can understand this, then you're going to start to understand how programming is effective and why you need a program. So workouts, let's start there. These are random, they're semi-random, and they're workout sessions. That's exactly what they are. Think about a boot camp class, a fitness class. There's no structure. Okay, you come in, you get a really solid workout, you sweat really hard, you leave feeling like you've done something, and you have. These are often entertaining, but in terms of long-term progress, they are terrible at driving sustainable results that you can be able to look at and anticipate in the long run. Next up is training plans. So think of training plans as what you can find online if you Google 8-week high rocks training plan, 8-week powerlifting training plan, 16-week bodybuilding training plan. These are a couple weeks of structured workouts. There's a theme within these programs, within these training plans, that ultimately do drive results. There should be an end result at the end of those 8 weeks, at the end of those 12 weeks, at the end of those 16 weeks, that the program should be designed to get. Now, if you don't hit that, there's a number of reasons why you may not. You may not have followed the program to a T. There may have been a miscue with your nutrition or with your sleep. But ultimately, there should be some type of result at the end of that. And ideally, you're getting stronger. You're seeing muscle mass increase. You're getting fitter. But that is designated for that 8-week block or that 12-week block. That's not long-term progression. These training plans are better than random. They do drive meaningful results in the short term, but again, from a long-term results perspective, they drop the ball. You're still limited at what you can achieve in the long term. Another aspect is training plans are often not designed for you, for what your goals are, for what your background is. You can be a beginner, you can be intermediate, you can be advanced. You may come from a strength background and now you're going to go into more of a conditioning program. You may come from a running background or a cycling background and now you want to develop strength. Does the training plan that you're following know these background details? Now, the third that we'll talk about is programming. This is a layered structure that actually takes you somewhere. Week to week, month to month, training block to training block, ideally year to year. Training programs and actual programming have designed stress, designed progressions, logical and methodical progressions that drive towards specific goals. Those goals may ultimately change, but at the end of the day, you're seeing that there's true lasting progress for your specific goal, for what you're trying to achieve. Programming helps you to develop abilities. They're not resulting in sweating. They're not resulting in soreness. There should be recovery built in. There should be logical steps in place to hit that end result. With programming, your performance actually changes. To summarize this, programming is intentional stress management. You apply the right stressor at the right time, in the right amounts, the right dosage, to get the right outcome. Training programs, training plans, those short 6, 8, 12-week plans, random workouts, they're noise in all of this. So now, why do you as an everyday athlete need a program over random workouts, over training plans? For most of you, you're busy adults. You don't have a lot of time to waste on workouts and sessions that don't move the needle towards your end goal. You also need a program that removes decision fatigue. For a lot of people, this is the biggest factor. You don't want to have to think about what to do. You don't want to have to be designing the workout on your way to the gym. You want to get into the gym, open up your app on your phone or your notebook where you've written down the plan that corresponds to where you're at in your program and be able to follow that workout without having to second guess it. You also don't want to rely on linear progress because your life isn't linear. You have stress from lack of sleep, your job, family commitments. Things are fluctuating here. And so you want something that is going to be able to adjust to your life. And then last, a good program should guarantee that development even when life punches you in the mouth. Even when things are going sideways, things are going south, it should be able to adapt with you and work with your life, not against it. Adaptations ultimately require progressive overload. They require that appropriate stress and adequate recovery. And random sessions, random workouts, random boot camp classes, random CrossFit sessions, those break all three of those. So a good program should focus on 3 qualities throughout the year that you should try to maintain as an everyday athlete. These are non-negotiables. The first is strength. Okay, strength is that foundation for your resilience. It's a foundation for your force production, for speed, for power, and injury prevention. Strength should never be allowed to completely fall off. We always want to be training strength. That doesn't mean that we need to be powerlifting, but we need to be tapping into those and touching on those frequently to maintain our strength. The second is aerobic conditioning. Aerobic conditioning is the engine behind everything. Your recovery, your endurance, your strength work, your work capacity. How much can you go for? Can you go for an hour? Can you go for 2 hours? That aerobic conditioning impacts that. And then ultimately your energy levels and how you are better able to handle the stressors outside of the gym. If aerobic conditioning drops, everything else is most likely going to get harder for you. So we must keep aerobic conditioning in throughout the year. And the third non-negotiable is muscle mass. training hypertrophy, maintaining that structural integrity. This is what protects our joints. This is what improves our posture and allows our performance to continue to increase. You don't need to be a bodybuilder, but you need to have adequate muscle mass for however you're trying to perform and however you're trying to look. This is like that armor for you as the everyday athlete. A good program shouldn't develop only one quality at a time while letting the others rot. By maintaining these, you're maintaining your pillars year round while focusing on whatever phase you're in. You can still be training endurance, but you still are going to incorporate strength. You're still going to dose strength. You're still going to dose muscle mass work. So now let's talk about conjugate and how conjugate fits into this. I program with conjugate for the majority of the people that I work with, and I'm a huge proponent of the conjugate method. This is my philosophy, right? Linear periodization works great if you are a college student who lives on campus for 16 weeks every semester. You live like a robot. You can perfectly control your volume, your intensity, your recovery. You don't have anything outside of the gym that distracts from your program. You're not going to miss days. You're not going to go on random trips here and there. The other time that linear is appropriate is if you're peaking for a singular performance, because now you're more likely going to focus more on hitting those sessions as programmed, as planned, and cutting out other things. We may not go out for drinks on a Saturday night because we have a marathon coming up in 2 months. We may not go out with our friends for this event because we have a powerlifting meet coming up. So if your programming has an end result of a specific event, linear works in those short 8 to 16 week blocks. But outside of that, conjugate is going to shine for the majority of you everyday athletes. Conjugate allows you to develop multiple abilities simultaneously. It's flexible and it's resilient to your real life chaos, the real life demands that are impacting you every single day. There's also constant variation that prevents stagnation, prevents overuse. With conjugate, it's easier to maintain strength and hypertrophy year round, and we can add in concurrent training with our aerobic conditioning to maintain that as well. It also allows you to bias certain qualities at certain key points throughout the year without losing the others because we're constantly maintaining those abilities. So linear works on paper, works great in textbooks, and it makes logical sense. But in reality, conjugate training is a much better periodization or programming perspective for the majority of everyday athletes out there, for tactical athletes, for hybrid athletes who want to maintain these qualities, who need to maintain these qualities throughout the year. So to kind of wrap up, I want to talk through how you can evaluate a program to determine whether it's bad or good. Let's start with what a good program includes. A good program should have clear goals. What abilities are being developed in this program? Are we going to be getting stronger? Are we going to be building our aerobic conditioning? Are we going to be developing muscle mass? Is there logical structure? How are the days structured? How are the weeks structured? What's the training split? Is there a rhythm to the weeks? What methods are being used? Are we using max effort, sub-max effort, dynamic effort, repetition method? Is there aerobic development and conditioning work in here? Is there threshold work, tempo intervals? If there's HIIT and high intensity exercise or mixed modality exercise, is there a logical progression week to week? Then let's look at progression. How is that stress increasing or being implemented or rotating over time? And last, what are the feedback loops? What data is being monitored, is being collected to confirm progress, to confirm that the program actually works? As a simple litmus test, you or your coach who wrote your program should know why you're doing every exercise, every rep scheme, and every session. If you don't, your program is more likely random and not a true program. What do those feedback loops look like? Are you getting stronger? Are you less sore and more resilient, more capable week to week? If you're doing conditioning, are your runs or your rides getting better and getting easier at the same effort? Are you recovering faster between workouts or between sets even? Are you becoming more athletic through measurable things? Can you jump higher? Can you jump quicker? Can you stand up off the ground? Are you more mobile? And most importantly here is, does the training create predictable progress? If a program doesn't produce reliable adaptations, again, it's not a program, it's an exercise, it's a workout, and it's entertainment, not structured training. So to wrap this episode up, programming for you is not just choosing exercises. It's not just doing workouts. Programming is creating stress that's designed for a specific, predictable adaptation over time. It should be progressed stress in a way that builds into a stronger and more capable athlete, or everyday athlete in your case. Through this series, you're going to learn and start to understand more about programming and how you can actually write a really good training program for yourself that actually is training and not working out. It's the difference between staying the same and becoming ultimately what you want to become through your training. So in the next episode of this series, we're going to break down more of the nuts and bolts about how to structure a training cycle, the training methods, training systems, and throughout the series, we'll talk the nuts and bolts of rest periods and how to program sets and reps and week-to-week structures, what all that looks like. Ultimately, I want you to know the entire process of writing a great training program. This is where your training starts to go from random to purposeful. So thanks for listening to the Everyday Strength Podcast. If today's episode helped you learn something, do me a favor and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. This helps the show grow and it ensures that you never miss an episode. If you're on YouTube, drop a comment. I read all of them. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, then a quick 5-star review goes a long way in pushing this information to more people. If you want to go deeper, then join the Performance Edge Network. It's free to join and it gets you access to my weekly newsletter, which is full of training breakdowns, physiology deep dives, and tools that you can apply immediately to become a stronger, fitter, higher performing everyday athlete. And if you're ready for structured programming, then I've got options for whatever path you're on. The Peak Performance Training Program is my flagship strength and conditioning program. And I also offer Peak 3X, which is a 3-day per week version for busier athletes, along with other programs designed for hybrid competitors, runners, and anyone who wants to train like an athlete year-round. You can find all those and more at HageleStrength.com. I appreciate you being here. Keep training hard, and I'll see you in the next episode.